But see, when I left school, I went to work in the butcher shop, I did, see. I was working in the butcher shop, I was only 14, in the bloody butcher shop, and that Dame Victoria Ledbetter come in. She's a miserable-looking cow, she was, for Christ's sake. And she said, could I have an Aylesbury duck? Well, I give her a duck, see? And she stick her finger right up a duck's ass. She said, that's not an Aylesbury duck, that's a Devonshire duck. Right. Well, I went back and seen the boss. I said, there's a woman. I said, that stuck her finger up a duck's ass and said, it's not an Aylesbury duck, it's a Devonshire duck. My God, he said, that's Mrs. Ledbetter. He said, she's an authority on ducks. Don't you try to con her with a bogus duck. He said, take her that one. That's a proper Aylesbury duck. Well, I took her out this duck. She said, I'll have it. And she stick her finger up her duck's ass. She said, that is an Aylesbury duck and a very, very nice one. She said, I don't know what sort of butcher you'll make, young man, trying to con people on with bogus ducks. She said, where are you from anyway? I said, well, go on, you're the bloody expert. And then Denzel come in, he said, I'll have 3 brandies in the same glass, and he give him 3 brandies, and he drink the bloody lot. Denzel said, I'm sorry, but he said, I shouldn't have done that with what I got. He said, what have you got? He said, 15 pence.